Okay, A's fans, today's game reminded me of the film Kill Bill, and that's not a good thing.
You are Locked On A's, your daily Oakland A's podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, A's fans, and welcome to Locked On A's. This is the podcast where we talk about the Oakland A's as long as they are the Oakland A's on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every day. I am your host for now and for maybe forever, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully. I have been a baseball podcaster for well over a decade now, and this is my sixth full season here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And I am normally the host of Locked On MLB. And I still host Locked On MLB every day. So if you enjoy what we're doing here, check out Locked On MLB, our new episode. We break down our latest power rankings, and that's a lot of fun. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. I am your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter and Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. And check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code all lowercase LockedOnMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. I think I've taken care of everything, right? I am back from the Bay Area. I'm back down in Southern California, but I went to see the A's game, and thanks for some of the nice notices from the fun episode I did in the pouring rain. And since that deluge of 20 runs, not a lot's gone right for the A's. The A's lost the final game to the Marlins, but they won 20-4. They won the series, and basically at this point, you're just like, just keep winning series, just keep winning series. And in came the Texas Rangers with images of going back to the World Series dance in their head, but also, chance to leapfrog the Seattle Mariners. Well, there's a 4-game set coming up with the Texas Rangers. And yes, they just beat up the Marlins like they're a piñata, but they needed to, I think it's critical always to win that first game. You got 4 games coming up with Texas. And quite frankly, I'd be happy with a split of the 4 games. But if you win game 1, then you just got to win one of the next 3 and be fine with a split. You stay, you keep within there. You play well against the really good teams. Haney pitched for Texas. Wood pitched today for the A's. You can't ask for more than they got from Wood. Wood's been up and down this year, but he gave him 6 strong innings, 6 shutout innings. Only let up to 2 hits, only let up to 1 walk. Haney pitched fine. He didn't walk any batters over 6 innings. But Duran made a couple of errors for Texas, and the outfield defense was just a mess. And the A's got, a couple hits from Davis. They got a hit and a run from Blade, and they took the 2-0 lead with Wood pitching the first 6 innings. Great. Adams pitched great. Then, you got Ursag and Miller. Ba-boom, ba-boom. And they've just been lights out. Ursag looked a little shaky. And there was he didn't have his best control. But in the end, he had 2 strikes and 2 outs on Corey Seager. And he threw him, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 changeups. One after another after another. Now, Corey Seager, of course, has not been having a great year so far. But he's Corey freaking Seager. He and Reggie Jackson are the only people to be a World Series MVP with 2 different franchises. Okay? He's someone who comes up big when the moment is there. Now, here's where I thought of the movie Kill Bill. Because in your head, you're thinking you got 2 strikes and 2 outs. Yes, they got 2 runners on. They strike out Semien. You bring in, it's Miller time. Then, boom, they win game 1 of the series. Boom. You've created a situation where you have to only go 1-3 over the next 3 games, and you would take that situation every which way but loose. I'm not even talking about an orangutan right now. And I imagined the strikeout. You imagined the strikeout. You imagined Miller coming out throwing gas. That's how it was set up. And then with 2 outs and 2 strikes and 2 on in the top of the 8th, 1 pitch away from putting themselves in a situation where a shutout 9th inning would give them the win, Seager hit a drive to right center field. And at first I thought it was going to be, that's going to be off the wall. Then I realized it's that little part in center field, like, it's going to be near the Holy Toledo sign. And Holy Toledo indeed. Over the wall it went. And with 1 swing of the bat, it suddenly became a 3-2 game. And to be fair, the A's played a little bit of a sloppy game. Nevin made a sloppy play in the 9th inning to give 1 more run to the Rangers. And then Yates came out to pitch the 9th. Robertson looked great. Yates was a little wild. He wound up walking in battery. He seemed to go at, sorry, a little cough there. He seemed to go 3 balls on everybody. And they wound up getting the walk, and up stepped Harris. Now, Harris hit the 2 home runs that I was there. He got another hit today. Got 2 strikes on him. And then he hit a line drive that went off the bat. It looked like it was going to go down the right field line. And this was 1 out. For that split second, I'm thinking that's down the right field line. That's a double easy. That may score Blade, but certainly will put runners at 2nd and 3rd. And then with Brown, Nevin, and Rooker potentially coming up, a base hit could tie the game. A home run would give him the win. All those things are going in my head in that split second. Instead, Lowe, the first baseman, caught it. It was a line drive, but where Lowe was positioned, holding on Blade at first, boom, right in his glove. Stepped on first, and that was it. And I went back to the 8th inning in my brain. You can't get mad at Harris for hitting to the line drive double play. He hit it perfectly. He did exactly what you wanted, a line drive down the right field line. Just right in the glove. So the question I have is, why did this remind me of Kill Bill? You ever see Kill Bill? The first, the part 1 of Kill Bill, when Uma Thurman was going to take on Lucy Liu, she goes into the thing in Japan, and the first wave of assassins, like there was the 88 Keys or something, the crazy 88s, and she just takes them all on with her sword and kills every one of them. And she's there victorious. And then Lucy Liu makes a signal, and a bunch of other assassins, and a lot more of them come out. And Lucy Liu asks to Uma Thurman, "You didn't think it would be that easy, did you?" And Uma Thurman said, for a second there, yeah, I kind of did. And I was thinking about this as the defending World Series champions are coming into town, and the A's are just 1 game under 500. And because Seattle lost, if they held on to this win, they would tie the Rangers no, they'd be 1 game behind the Rangers still. But they would be only a game and a half out of first place. Only 1.5 games out of first place. A 500 team. And put themselves in a situation where just 1 more win would mean a split of the series as a worst case scenario. If Ursay could just do what he always does. You didn't think it would be that easy, did you? Yeah, for a minute there, I kind of did. And this is what you have to remember. You've seen teams that have amazing bullpens over the years. The A's fans, if you remember in the 1980s, it wasn't just Eckersley. You had Rick Honeycutt setting him up. You had Gene Nelson setting up. With the Yankees, it wasn't just Mariano Rivera, but he had he had Jeff Nelson and Mike Stanton and Ramiro Mendoza setting them up. When the Braves won the World Series in 2021, it wasn't just Will Smith. No, not that Will Smith. No, not the other Will Smith. But it wasn't just that Will Smith doing it. But it was also, you took a look at the bullpen they had on that Braves team that won the World Series. And they had, what's his name again? They had Matzik, they had Luke Jackson, the AJ Minter. You couldn't get a hit off of them. And it looked like the A's are setting something up there. But for every team, there's a hiccup. And for every team in every moment, you think, oh, I had banked that they were going to win this game because that's what they've been doing. And they're still playing so much better than we thought they were ever going to play. But the fact of the matter is this. You didn't think it would be that easy, did you? Yeah. For a second there, I kind of did.
PrizePicks is America's #1 fantasy sports app with more than 3 million members. It's the easiest and most exciting way to get in on the action while you watch your favorite sports and players. You can pick more than or less than on 2 or more player stats and watch the winnings roll in. Don't miss your chance to add your favorite players from the diamond in your PrizePicks entry, whether it's strikeouts, RBIs, or first inning runs. Take your picks on more than or less than, and then add them to your PrizePicks entry today. Get in on the playoff action and win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks as you and the world's best players take the game to a new level during basketball's postseason. PrizePicks is really simple to play. I can make my picks and submit them in less than 60 seconds. Download the app and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. Yes, download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. Stop the game. We got to talk more about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying. You can't stop the game. There's a Major League Baseball game going on over your shoulder. But I got to tell you, Monopoly Go has so many great things about it. You can team up with friends for timed tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock, and there's so much you can get. Unique stickers you can trade with your friends to complete albums for big prizes. Cool new playing pieces to travel the boards with. Hilarious emojis for taunting friends when you smash their buildings and heist their vaults. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton include their own unique mini games like digging for treasure, robot Panchico game, and there's always timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. There's always something going on fun to discover with Monopoly Go, so get off the bench and download it at the App Store or Google Play. All right, you may resume the game. Hey, where do you get your sports news? It's time to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, the first ever 24-hour streaming sports channel on YouTube. It's now available on the Free Fires TV app on your Amazon TV. Check out all the latest opinions and takes from local experts from Locked On, plus the national shows. Locked On Sports Today. It's on your YouTube 24/7. Check it out. Have that be your new go-to spot.
All right, I want to just put a kibosh on something right now. Gravity Fallout Pines is an everyday A's who listens on this, says, I'm sorry, but Kotze is blowing game for the A's. Yes, Miller was ready to go, and Urseg was clearly struggling. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, I will not sit here and listen to this 2020 hindsight nonsense. Gravity Fallout Pines, you're a great fan. I love that you listen in, and I love that this is what we're talking about with the A's season. Oh, let's dissect this, that, or the other thing. No, I'm not saying Kotze is blowing games. He has a payroll that is somewhere lower than the Locked On Podcast Network is right now, and he has a team hovering around 500, and is doing so in a very big way by how he is managing the bullpen. He had the guy out there that you, and we all thought was the right one to get through that inning. If he had taken him out, then that would have been a panic move. I'm sorry, he was one strike away from getting out of that inning. Boom. And then you would have handed the ball to Miller. Clean inning. Were you saying that with 2 strikes and 2 outs and the score still 2-0 in the 8th inning? Were you saying pull him and bring Miller in? I want to see visual proof for that. I'm not going to go on and say that Kotsay is blowing games. Sorry. I'm sorry. You're a great fan, and I love that you listen. But know what I'm going to be saying here. What did you say here? Is 300 Mikey says baseball is a losing game, and Urseg was lights out all year. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm not smart enough to understand every little thing going on here. If you were a DF, if you were GM, what would you do differently? If I were the GM of the A's, I would be filling up my LinkedIn page and going on Indeed to see if someone would hire me, preferably one that has a budget. That's what I'd be doing. How do you think as Zeke Corp Alpha says, how do you feel A's players stay motivated day in and day out? I think, first of all, they wake up in the morning and say, I'm a Major League Baseball player. There you go. That's one thing. Another thing is they're playing well. And they wake up and say, hey, if we play well against the defending World Series champion Texas Rangers, we could be playing competitive ball. And guess what? I know it's still early May, but this is a lot later than some of us thought the A's would be playing right now. I mean, you take a look at, like, we all thought right now there are 3 teams, I think soon to be 4, that are absolute jokes this year. Absolute jokes. The Marlins are a complete joke. They're not just the 20-4 game that I was at. They are a horrible baseball team. The Colorado Rockies are a complete joke. The Chicago White Sox are a complete joke this year. And snicker all you want, but the Angels are creeping towards Rockies, White Sox, Marlins territory. You all have to admit this right now. You thought the A's were going to be in that group. You thought the A's were going to be part of the Marlins, the Rockies. The White Sox are 1,000 times worse than I thought they were going to be. And the Angels are just crumbling. And now that they've removed Mike Trout, that is a tremendous piece of that game of Jenga that you removed. But I am not going to sit here and watch people see someone taking this team and having them hanging around the 500 mark, playing well against the defending World Series champion, consistently winning games and winning series, and playing gobbledygook about should you be trying to get a 4-out save in May when the guy's 1 strike away from getting out of the inning. That is a classic hindsight is 2020. All right? Oh, by the way, MM Forever says sell the team. Well put. I agree with you. Yeah, there's some sorry gravity fallout puns. I know that I like that you're listening to the show every day. But I am going to push back. If someone says something that makes me mad, I will say so. I'm not going to put rosy colored glasses on when I do this show. I will criticize when they're worthy of criticism. I will get on people. I'm not a corporate shill for the A's or anything like that. I've called Jeff Fisher an absolute embarrassment, and I think what is happening with this team and how they are leaving one city and they don't have a place to go to, despite having literally decades to figure this out, is an absolute embarrassment. And I've said this before. I can't believe these words are going to come out of my mouth, because when Bud Selig was the commissioner of baseball, you never heard anyone who was harder on Bud Selig than me. I think it's a joke that he's in the Hall of Fame. Take him out, take Tom Yawkey out, and put Dick Allen in. I digress. But at least when Bud Selig saw that the McCourt ownership group was driving the Dodgers into the ground, making them an absolute laughingstock, and making them an uncompetitive team that was that was bleeding money because of the incompetency of the ownership. They forced that team, they forced them, of course, to sell, and to sell to an ownership group that was going to spend money and make the Dodgers a marquee franchise, which they absolutely were not 12 years ago. We need a commissioner, not Manfred. We need an actual, believe it or not, we need Seager. Again, a commissioner who I hated, but at least did the right thing with the Dodgers. They need to step in and say, this ownership group has not only driven the A's into the ground, but they put them in a situation where we can't even guess where they're going to play. Oh, we can guess, but it seems more and more like Las Vegas is thinking, I don't know. You don't have the money, do you? Pocketing revenue sharing all those years. Doesn't have the money to do it. Has to, whoa, I'm going to get this investment. Why would they invest with you? In the end, Vegas is probably like, we're into things that make a lot of money. Are you going to make us a lot of money? Because if not, we'll build something else. We'll build a Sphere. We'll build a pirate ship. We'll build a New York. We'll build a big zip line, because they're all there to keep people gambling. So they should force the A's to sell the team. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to stay in Oakland. They probably won't. I want them to, but they probably won't. But that would probably mean the team would set up camp in Sacramento. Someone here has said this, and I actually agree. Z Corp Alpha says, take Sacramento, Vegas will not work out. I actually think that's the case. I think Vegas, as I said before, I think Vegas is a horrible place to put a Major League Baseball team, especially a team like the A's. But I don't think Oakland is going to have a team after this year, no matter what. And but the fact of the matter is, I do not have faith that this ownership group is going to do the right thing. I do not. How could anyone think that? How could anybody think that at this point? So I am going to criticize the team when they do things worthy of criticism. I am going to say they're doing the wrong thing when I feel that they should do the wrong thing. But we need a commissioner who is able to step up and do it. Now, Z Corp Alpha reminds us, Commissioner plans to retire when his contract expires in 2029. He spoke to a news conference in Florida on Thursday. All right. Well, I guess you know what that means. There's only one person who can be the commissioner. And when did he say he was going to retire? He said he was going to retire after 2029. So that's 5 years from now. In 5 years, do you know who the commissioner needs to be? Your pal Sully. Vote for Sully, baseball commissioner for a change. That's right. Throw me into the mix. I'm ready. I am absolutely ready to be your commissioner. Let's make it happen, folks. Seriously, at least you know I have what's good for baseball in my heart.
Mother's Day is coming up. My mom listens to this podcast, so I'm not going to tell her what we're going to get her. Are we going to get her flowers for the kitchen island? Or are we going to get her some essentials, or maybe the latest tech for a more, practical gift? I'm not going to spoil it, but I'm going to tell you how you're going to get it, Ma, through DoorDash. We might use same-day delivery or schedule a week ahead of time. We will get savings and make you proud of us, Mom. With DoorDash membership, we can save on a $0 delivery fee, reduce service fees, and eligible offers from Dash Pass merchants that meet the minimum subtotal. Other fees include service fees and terms apply. You too can order now and get everything you need from Mother's Day on DoorDash. Use code LOCKEDONMLB for 50% off your next order. Up to $15 when you spend $15 or more on your next flower, convenience, grocery, retail. Order now on DoorDash. That's promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Order using DoorDash today. Terms apply, and you'll get your gift, Mom. Hey, what's your go-to spot for checking out the latest in sports, opinions, takes, and the news? Have it be Locked On Sports Today, the first ever national 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. It's now available on the free Amazon Fire TV's channel app. Check it out for all the latest from the Locked On experts and the national shows. Check it out, Locked On Sports Today. Have that be your hub.
Now behind the shortstop.
In the latest episode of I Bet You Forgot They Were on the A's, let's bring up the late Hall of Famer Don Sutton. Don Sutton pitched for 23 years. He began in 1966 when the Dodgers lost the World Series to Baltimore, and he finished in 1988, the year they beat the A's. He actually wasn't on the squad that won when they won the World Series, but he did play with the team and finally finished his career winning a ring. Actually, I think they cut him shortly before, but he was pretty much cooked. But he was mainly with the Los Angeles Dodgers. He played 16 years with the Dodgers, won 233 games in 550 starts, but he bounced around a little bit. He played for the California Angels and was on the team that lost the ALCS to the Red Sox. He played all those years of the Dodgers, and then he left in 1981, the year the Dodgers went to the World Series. That year, Don Sutton pitched for the Houston Astros after signing as a free agent. Bad timing, Don. But he played in the postseason with the Houston Astros in his short time there. The next year, he was traded to the Milwaukee Brewers, where he played. They lost Game 7 of the World Series there. And then kind of bounced around a little bit and found himself, when the A's traded Ray Burris to the Brewers, along came Don Sutton to Oakland. And you know what? In 1985, Don Sutton pitched pretty well. Sutton won 13 games. He gave him 194 innings and a 3.89 earned run average. And along the way, the A's had kind of a strange year in 1985. They got off to a rough start, but then they wound up having a pretty good May, and for a time found themselves in contention. In fact, on July 1st, the Oakland A's were only one game out of first place. And the A's were playing in a very winnable, back then it was the American League West. They were only one game behind the California Angels, and they were 2.5 games ahead of the Kansas City Royals. Why do I bring up the Royals specifically? Because the Royals went on to win the 1985 World Series. But in July, they were in third place and looking up at the A's. And with players like Don Sutton on the team, it looked like this was going to be one of those weird years that right after they got rid of their biggest superstar, they wound up having a solid year. They had just traded Ricky Henderson, and yet somehow they were putting together a winning team. In fact, they still had a winning team at the end of August, and they were still hovering in contention. They needed a really good September in order to do that. On August 30th, Don Sutton went up against Jack Morris of the Detroit Tigers. Remember, the Tigers are the defending World Series champions that year, and were had a winning season. We're trying to catch the Toronto Blue Jays. Jack Morris was on the team. Don Sutton was going the other for the A's, and it was in Tiger Stadium, and the A's pounded Jack Morris with single, walk, single, wild pitch, Bruce Bochy, Dwayne Murphy, Donnie Hill, Mickey Tettleton, and a future installment of I Bet You Forgot They Were on the A's, a key walk by Oakland A's slugger, Dusty Baker. But Jack Morris couldn't get through the second inning. Don Sutton, however, pitched quite well, thank you very much. He wound up going 8 innings, allowing only 1 earned run, not walking any, and winning his 13th and final game as a member of the A's. The A's finished that game with a 8-3 victory and were 67-61, and were staring at potential contention down the stretch. And then what happened? The A's went 8-20 in September. They absolutely did a nosedive. And when things started going badly, then the A's wound up dumping Don Sutton to the California Angels, where he finished with the Angels. The Angels fell short of the division title, but the next year, with Don Sutton pitching, won the division and got to within 1 strike of the World Series. But for part of the year, Don Sutton, who won more games as a Los Angeles Dodger than any pitcher in Los Angeles Dodger history, was indeed a member of the Oakland A's. Is Mikey says Sully for commissioner. You should do an entire show what you would do as MLB commissioner. I've done a bunch of those on Locked On MLB, but I'll be happy to do one of them here. And Z Corp Alpha asked me, did you enjoy the film Moneyball or feel it was inaccurate? Well, that's a preview of a show I'm going to be doing later, because I happen to be a huge fan of the movie Moneyball, but I think in the end, it did irreparable damage to the Oakland A's. And partly because of how they played with the facts, and partly because of how the team adopted Moneyball as its mantra that gave Fisher the excuse to be super cheap. That's a future show. But thanks for listening to us. Follow us at Locked On A's on Twitter, or whatever it's called now, and on Instagram. You can follow me. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. We still got 3 games to go. Let's win 2 of them. This has been Locked On A's. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call me Sully.